And President Trump's chief of staff is speaking out about the administration in a series of interviews with Vanity Fair. Susie Wiles says Trump has a, quote, alcoholic personality and will go for it whenever he sees an opportunity for retribution. She also calls Vice President Vance a conspiracy theorist for a decade and says Attorney General Pam Bondi whiffed on the Epstein files controversy. Now Wiles is calling the article a disingenuously framed hit piece. White House correspondent Karen Travers is here for more on that. Hi, Karen. So Wiles is taking issue with this article, but she's not denying the specific quotes, and some of them are pretty eye-opening. So how is she explaining some of these statements?
Yeah, and this was a series of interviews that she did with Vanity Fair's Chris Whipple over many months. 11 interviews, he said, that he put together in these two pieces. In her statement posted on social media, Susie Wiles says this is a disingenuously framed hit piece on me, the president, the White House staff, and the cabinet. But she also says that this was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. But Diane, this piece has Washington talking because there are some incredible headlines in here. She talks about the president's retribution campaign, saying that when there's an opportunity, he will go for it, but that there was a loose agreement that the score settling would end before the first 90 days of his term were over. She talked about Elon Musk, who came in and was put in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency. She said that he was an odd duck whose actions were not always rational and sometimes left her aghast. She talked about J.D. Vance, who at one point was very anti-Trump and then, of course, is now part of the MAGA fold, and she said that that conversion was sort of political. She talked about the tariffs that the president put in place and said that there was a huge disagreement about this major policy decision of the president's, saying that this was a conversation and disagreement about whether they were a good idea. And on the president's current strategy in the Caribbean against Venezuela, she says that that strategy is to keep blowing up boats until Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, says uncle. Diane?
And Wiles also revealed President Trump is what she called the Epstein file, but she says he's not in the file doing anything awful. Talk to me about that part of this interview.
Yeah, she also said that she underestimated the swirling controversy about the Epstein files, but specifically as it relates to President Trump. This is what Susie Wiles had to say. She said, Trump is in the file, and we know he is in the file. He's not in the file doing anything awful. She said he was on Epstein's plane. He's on the manifest. There were, you know, sort of young, single, whatever. I know it's a passé word, but sort of young, single playboys together. Just a very striking comment to hear from somebody so close to the president. She also talked about people close to the president, including Vice President Vance, the FBI Director Kash Patel, saying that they have been very into this story because they have been conspiracy theorists for a decade, referring to J.D. Vance. And talking about Kash Patel, the FBI Director, she said he's been saying, gotta release the files, gotta release the files. So certainly talking about how there have been people within the inner circle pushing for this. And Diane, we've seen that push and pull play out over months as the administration has not released those files.
Karen Travers, thank you.